Good evening. It is October 2nd, 2023. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin. What I said last week, the two most probable paths that I had here was the direct route, which I had in yellow on my chart. I assigned a 60% chance to that happening. And as long as it was below 27.3, that was valid. Now, obviously, that did not happen. We are above 27.3 now, and so we are in the slightly less probable, right? But I still gave it about 40% chance of this one, right? This is the blue on the chart. And this said that we were going to go up to 28 to 29, somewhere in that area, to reset that B wave, which seems to be what we've done before it then drops for real down into the low 20K region. So this is what I'm waiting on now, and we're going to take a look and see if it's given us any indication that that has begun. The alternate bullish scenario, I will go over that again as well. Basically, if it somehow morphs into 5 waves above 30K, then potentially the bottom is in, but nothing about the current structure strongly suggests that. So very low probability of that happening. All right, so we have our chart here. First, let me kind of zoom out and just review real quick what we're dealing with. In a bullish case on sort of the macro chart, let me get rid of all my drawings here for a second. You can see from this 15.5 low up to here, then down to here, then up to the high here. This is pretty clearly 3 waves, right? That's an ABC up. So that's not typically bullish. The only way that's bullish is if it makes a diagonal, and diagonals are unreliable. So we're already dealing with a pretty limited bullish case in the macro here. It's a possibility though, right? So zooming in then, basically the bulls need to see this A or W, X, Y, this kind of 3-wave move sideways here. They need to see that be the completion of a correction in a diagonal. And we didn't even break this low, so I find it hard to believe that it's done already. I think it's quite likely that we come down once again into this sort of low 24 or potentially lower down into the 21s, even in that bullish scenario. So let me turn my drawings back on and show you here what I'm looking at for that. This is still labeled in yellow because the larger picture, that's still fine. This being W, this being X, and we should get a Y wave down, which should have hit this yellow box. And we didn't quite hit that yellow box. We didn't break that low, and so again, I don't believe that that correction is done. Now, again, this is an unreliable bullish pattern. So this yellow box, I'm going to need to see proof. Like if this comes back down into the yellow box, that doesn't mean I'm buying there necessarily. I still need to see proof then of a bounce with a nice 5-wave move off of a low. So, that's not for me a clear buy zone. That's just the potential bullish support zone. It is possible, though I don't see clear indications for the bears here, but it is possible that this continues down. So if we see something that looks like this, where we go crashing through that yellow box, then it's quite likely that Bitcoin is headed down to 10K or potentially lower. All right, so that out of the way, let's just focus on this yellow box for now, because that's kind of our only hope for bulls. We're working on this Y wave. Within that Y wave, we should have 3 waves, A, B, and C, right? And actually, that was my original yellow scenario, but you can see I've got my blue scenario on here as well. There's the B wave in blue, and here's the A wave in blue, right? So that was my alternate, was that this was, instead of this being A, this is A here. And there's nothing wrong with that. This can be A, that can be B. And as I said, If we broke above 27.3, we were probably just resetting that B wave into the blue scenario instead. So for clarity's sake, since the micro yellow here is now out, I'm going to delete it just to kind of get some of the stuff off the chart here. And we're just going to leave the blue on here now. All right, so we have A right here, B right here, and we're making our three waves up, W, X, and Y within that B wave. So first thing I want to point out, get rid of that, that's old. First thing I want to point out is if we look at this low, the last local low that we made, about 24.9, and then this local high and this local low, we can pull a fib extension for W and X, which gives us a target for the Y wave. And that target is basically here. Okay, that's the danger zone with the ideal place for it to stop at the 1.0 extension. You can see that's right about where it stopped, actually slightly below it. Okay, so there was our danger zone resistance box. Now, I was going to give this the benefit of the doubt. Let me zoom in a little bit more now, looking just at this Y wave of B. It looks like we have our A and B and then C of Y right there. And I'm going to zoom in a little closer. So last night in the Discord group for members, I was looking at the potential that this was the top of our third wave right here. So, and that's within C, right? Because C wave should have 5 waves. So we have 1, 2, maybe 3 here or 3 here, 3, 4, and 5. Just like that. Get rid of that. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up within C. Now it was possible earlier, before we broke down here, it was possible this was actually an extension of 3. This could have been 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We could have pushed higher. But once we broke down below, I think it was 27.8 was my key level, that pretty much took that out of the running. So primary scenario right now at this point, let me just make this next higher degree, make this next higher degree, there we go. Primary scenario at this point is that we have begun the path down right now to that 24K or below level. That is my primary. Unfortunately, looking at this action, it does look pretty choppy. I don't necessarily see a clear 5 waves, and if I do, it looks pretty much like a diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there is 5 down, but it's not, doesn't look exactly the way it should, mainly because this third wave looks like an ABC. Okay, but it could be a diagonal down. So right now we're getting sort of a bounce here. It looks like an A, B, C is forming. Could that form a larger WXY? Yes, it could. But the main resistance zone now is going to be right here. So I think we probably got up a little bit more into this 27.7 to 28.1, give or take, either as an ABC here or a larger WXY. As I said, either one is a possibility. So probably up a little bit here before going down further. If it were to get above the 886, which is 28,427, then it would say that's not our 5 waves down, basically, and it still has higher to go. So if you were to short this, you could short pretty much anywhere 750 up to even 28.3 if it got that high, with a stop above 28.429. That's probably my plan. I may wait a little bit here and just make sure this continues to look corrective. If it starts doing something like this, then I may hold off on getting shorts, because that could do 5 waves up and tell us there's another leg upcoming. But as of right now, it does look to me like this is probably done for. But we'll wait and see, withholding complete judgment for now, but it does look very complete, this correction. The only way that this turns bullish, and it's a bit problematic already because that third wave didn't even get to the 1.0 extension, but this could potentially be a diagonal upwards. And you know how I feel about diagonals. That third wave, even in a diagonal, that third wave should be larger. I'm going to put this in red. That's alternate bullish scenario. It's the only one the bulls have now. There's no way this turns into an impulse. Just trying to find my channel here. So if we draw a channel, I don't even know if this works. Yeah. Okay, so 1 to 3. So we may have a little bit further down to come in 4 potentially. This would probably turn into an A, B, C, something like that. And then we'd get another A, B, C up for 5. And I said 5 waves above 30K. But that might only get us to high 29s because it's diagonal and because that third wave was so anemic. But because the third wave is so anemic, it also makes this pretty unlikely. So bull scenario is still very, very unlikely. That's the only way that I see this going upwards, as a 5-wave diagonal like that. Or because we're dealing with choppy 3-wave moves, I suppose this could be our ABC, and that could actually be 1, right? And then we might get ABC down in 2, and then ABC up in a new 3. Something like that is possible as well. But for clarity's sake, argument's sake, I'm going to leave this diagonal on at this point in time. But again, that is only for kind of our backup bullish scenario for, what if the bulls would win out. But I do not believe it to be the case. I believe we are going lower. And I'm going to, these boxes were for yellow scenario, so I'm going to get rid of that. And let's pull a new fib here for the C wave while we're updating the chart. We're going to go from the top to the new A to the new B and get our box. And this overlaps really nicely, actually. This is the C wave target box right there. Overlaps that target beautifully. 22,382 is the 1.0 extension. That's your ideal place for this to go. I'll make that box yellow. And honestly, usually don't see the 618 get hit and stop there. We're probably going at least to the 764, so that's 23.7. So really anywhere between 21 and 23.7 is the main target, but again, about 22.4 is the ideal target at that 1.0 extension. All right, so I think that's all I've got to say. We'll see if we get this little bounce up here that looks corrective. If we do, we can short it down and hopefully get a nice big dump. Probably looking something like this. Could even do this ugly choppy crap. It likes to do ugly choppy crap before actually dying. That's certainly a possibility. But all right, I think that's all I've got to say, and I will talk to you all again potentially on Friday if we get something worthwhile. If we continue to just dick around here in this area, then I'll wait until next Monday. But once we get some action that clarifies things, I will do another video and update you at that point. But for now, expecting lower. I think we've already hit the high today. To be perfectly honest, I think we hit top. So I'll talk to you all a bit later. Have a good week.